I'd like to welcome on our guest, entertainment lawyer Joshua Lastine. Josh, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here.
So I know the one of the bigger questions was screenwriters out there, especially indie screenwriters, is like, do I need an entertainment lawyer?
Is that the question?
That's the
Um,
question, yeah.
you do, at least in terms of, feeling protected and overall elevating your career. I work with screenwriters who are first-time screenplay writers, first-time screenplay sellers, as all the way up to, more seasoned writers and people selling more, traditional studio and blockbuster style films. But everyone in between needs some form of protection, even if it's just making sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Things like making sure that you're being paid on time. The timing of your payments is a big concern of mine, because a lot of people, so routinely focus on the amount that they're being paid. Well, they don't go too deep into the contract itself and look at the whens and hows you're being paid. So, a lot of clients that I have come through my door that have already sold something, they may say, hey, here's this contract that I signed. I was promised to be paid X, Y, and Z, but I haven't gotten paid yet. And then, looking through the contract, looking through the details, it's like, well, they buried it under commencement of this or delivery of that and whatnot.
Oh
And
wow.
there are obviously protections for WGA writers, right? And those are great. But I think that even highlights the need, even more so if you're not a WGA writer, to have somebody on your side looking over the contract, because you can really get screwed in some of these deals.
Well, that's interesting because I always hear from other writers, especially when they're on like lower paid indie gigs, is that they can't afford an entertainment lawyer. Do you have any kind of recommendations or suggestions?
Yeah, one of the things that I always say is that it's always best to start a conversation with an entertainment lawyer, even if they don't necessarily agree to take you on right then. It would behoove you to start building those relationships and start getting kind of familiar with an entertainment lawyer, so that when the time comes, it may not be, this screenplay that you want them to review, if there's $500, $1,000, whatever, but
Right.
the one that's 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, oftentimes I'll agree to do a 5% deal. So I'll just take 5% of whatever the writing is making with a
Nice.
floor cap of $500. So like
Gotcha.
$500 is kind of the bare minimum that I'll usually
Yeah.
do for engagement, but still it's worth it to make sure that you have eyes on the actual paperwork, especially if contract reading and writing isn't your strong suit.
I think that's important to know, and to know that you have to have an entertainment lawyer. So I mean, I have a lawyer, and when I was in a contract negotiation with this person who wanted me to do an adaptation of their life story, which I've done a few of those, and this one was interesting because I got the contract. I was like, God, this is weird. So I sent it to my guy, and he's like, yeah, none of this is like standard. And so we ended up finding out that this guy's lawyer was like a divorce lawyer.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
he wasn't really specialized in entertainment law, and which is its own practice. So it's like it's important to have the guy that knows what to do.
I would say that that's very common for my first time screenplay writers to come in my office, and they'll have a contract and it's written by a producer who has had their real estate attorney drafted up, or their investment attorney or banker. And the contract will wildly not make any coherent sense.
Yeah.
And at which point, I definitely don't feel like the client's protected. It really is the devil in the details. Are you attached for subsequent rewrites? Are you, if it's not a WGA credit, are you guaranteed credit under the parameters or rules as if the WGA were to apply? Do you have, if they're causing you to travel, can you give notes? Can you be on set? Did they make you promises that are not in the paperwork somewhere? That's usually a big one of mine. People, anytime I sit down with my writer, I'll have them clearly tell me what it is that they expect to get out of the deal, what they think they've been promised, and then, obviously make sure that the paperwork is reflective of that. Because
I
the
love that.
producers can hand you whatever and expect you to sign it, but if it's not in there, then it's unenforceable. And even if it is in the contract, sometimes you just need a lawyer to be kind of scary Darth Vader in the background to say, hey, play fair, play by the rules of these contracts. Because contracts, if they don't, if the producer doesn't adhere to them, if someone is in breach of them, it's still up to you to have them enforced.
I think it's really important to do that and to have someone like you look at it. I know somebody who got trapped in a contract for like 5 years, and they had to
Wow.
keep, yeah, they had to keep working with this guy over and over because they paid them a bunch of money
Mm,
for the gig, but they didn't specify how many drafts that they could work on. And so
yeah.
then he had to keep, I was like, my God, it sounds like you're indentured here. Like you need you need to get out of this. So it is definitely something to pay attention on. Usually it's the other way around though, you get you get written out of your contract, or you get written out of the film, or you don't have you don't have the credit anymore, even though it was your idea, and you get written out of it. And so there's different things you can put in there to make sure to stay protected, which I think is awesome. What are your feelings on you'll hear some writers out there, you'll see this online and forums and stuff, and I think it's a myth that people think they can use an entertainment lawyer as a pseudo agent or manager to use their connections, and I try and explain to people, it's like, yeah, that's not really a thing, but tell me what your thoughts are.
So very much a misunderstanding, to the extent that I have clients that are active. They're going out, they're shopping their materials. If they have something that I think is truly outstanding and we already have a relationship, an attorney-client relationship, if I know somebody that would be particularly interested in that specific thing, I'm more than happy to try to bridge a connection, try to build synergy. I oftentimes try to interconnect my clients, interconnect my contacts. I have birthday parties that I invite agents and managers and my writer clients to, and stuff like that. But in no way do I advertise myself as sort of a door-to-door salesman, or
Yeah.
in any way like, offer that kind of service for hire. And I would be very weary of any lawyer who does. But
Right.
it's more of a natural extension of the relationship, more than, okay, this is your backdoor way of getting things
Yeah.
to.
So it's really more of like a happenstance. Like it could happen, but in no difference than being with a producer, or another screenwriter. And it's just kind of, things can fall in place, but you're not gonna run out there and grab a lawyer and be like, ha ha ha, here's my key. And I mean, it's like, it just doesn't work that way.
No,
Um,
the only caveat to that is, when when sending materials through to producers and to studios and stuff like that, oftentimes they will have to go through an entertainment lawyer or an agent or manager. In
right.
those instances where they actually have, approval from so and so to send it, as long as it's through an attorney, I will send client material out that way. Again, though, it's part of an extension of the relationship already.
So it's more of like a querying type of situation.
Yeah,
Okay.
oftentimes if I'll have clients who meet a producer at a party, or meet a producer running
Gotcha.
out of a speaker event and something like that, and they'll say, hey, here's my card. You can follow up with me after this. If you have materials to submit, you can, but it has to be through an agent or attorney or
Yeah.
manager, and in which case,
Gotcha.
I'm more than
Yeah.
happy to pass on materials that way.
So in that situation, getting a lawyer at that point, someone like yourself can work to kind of bridge that gap, but it's not your, like you said, secret backdoor into not getting an agent or a manager. Do
Correct.
you do you find yourself, when you have your clients, do you find yourself working in conjunction with an agent or a manager?
Always. 99% of the time I'm working in conjunction with an agent or manager. I have a manager that I work with very closely, Jason Rubin of First Story Entertainment, First Story Management, I believe. And we work as a team in terms of, the manager's job is very much to coach the client and kind of put them in the position be to get opportunities. The
Yeah.
agent drives opportunities through the door, and my job is to take a look and analyze those opportunities for viability and make sure that we're getting the best deal possible. When I
Right.
represent a lot of studios and a lot of production companies on the other side of the table when we're representing the studio against the writer, and I'll say that, when I'm working are negotiating against an agent, manager, and attorney combo of all three, they usually get the best deals and no stone is left unturned. The agent manager duo is very great about getting the job and getting the foot in the door, but kind of after getting that initial deal, that initial offer, unless there's very specific things that the writer wants, they don't know exactly how to go under the hood, so to speak, and
Yeah.
look for extra things to ask for that might not be there.
What do you think? I mean, and just anecdotally, or what you've experienced, where you've had an indie writer come up to you and be like, "This happened to me." Like, what stands out in your mind of something people can look out for when they are kind of glancing over contracts or working with producers?
So, well, the question turned from my immediate thought, but I'll give you this one as kind of a warning thought, and then maybe we can come back to that question. But
Of
a lot
course.
of times, so I don't go to court, I don't, argue in front of a judge, I don't wear a suit and tie, but I do kind of handle a lot of what I call, breakups or pre-litigation matters. And so I'll have a lot of writers come to me with kind of a similar story where they're working with a partner and the relationship goes south and they don't have a written agreement between the two of them and they want to know what their rights and obligations and responsibilities are to one another. And the story that I've been getting quite frequently lately that I want listeners to kind of be weary of and watch out for is I've got a lot of student writers come in that have pitched their projects as part of a writing course, as part of a media class, as part of something, and then they have either another student or a professor even try to claim some sort of creative ownership
Oh
or
my gosh.
co-ownership of the project. So always be careful who you're getting into bed with, so to speak. And if you are, forming some sort of writing team, some sort of writing duo, you have to be very careful and treat that thing like a marriage. And you want to have very clear expectations going into it, and probably hire an attorney to delineate, a partnership agreement between the two of you if you want to take that relationship seriously.
Having that kind of like a collaboration contract.
Collaboration contract, or even, I mean, like if it is a formal written partnership, the way that, not Laverne and Shirley, but Laverne and Shirley, right? If so, something to that effect, you're
Right.
going to want things in writing how you operate.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I've even heard this concern with some screenwriting gurus out there who will be adapting or helping to fine tune someone's already finished story and then wanting credit for it. When it's
Yeah,
like, well,
and
this that's crazy.
oftentimes my clients will come to me and they'll say, hey, I had so and so give me notes and I had so and so do this, that, and the next thing, and that always makes me extremely cautious. The overprotective
Yeah.
lawyer in me says, hey, let's not maybe send this person a contract, but let's send them an email acknowledging that they don't own any rights or interests to the property or something to that effect. At least when we
Right.
have something on paper that this person, if they do try to come back and claim ownership in some way, we're in a better situation. Not necessarily a 100% foolproof situation, but we're in a better situation that we would be in than we would be in if we didn't have that email.
Yeah, I think that's good. Can you walk me through what your initial thought was when I had asked you that question? I just want to explore that deeper since I can pick your brain.
Well, I think that that's what it was, is that to
Okay.
be extremely weary. I think maybe your question was specifically what to watch out for in the contract, is maybe
Hmm.
that was what you were thinking
Yeah.
of originally. And you know, it's really, like you said, one of the first things you should be aware of when you're looking at the contract is does it seem standard, or does it seem messy and all over the place? Because if you're
Right.
given a contract that is already messy and all over the place, that's your first red flag right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Secondly, you want to make sure that your main sticking points are covered and included. Don't leave anything to, I get this a lot from my writers. Well, they'll be promised X, Y, and Z, and the producer will give them paperwork and they'll say, well, this is just the standard paperwork. We'll worry about travel, or we'll worry about this, that, or the other thing, separately. But this is just the template that I have, or the agreement that I have. So just sign this. And obviously you want to make sure that, in those instances, those things, those promises are covered in some way, even if it's just, a lot of times if I'm doing something that's quick and needs to get done, at the snap of a fingers, we'll draft what is known as an exhibit, a deal memo exhibit, and attach it to like a certificate of authorship,
Yeah.
or memorandum of writing or something like that. And that exhibit will delineate the specific terms that you guys agree to. Making sure that you get paid up front, in some way, shape, or form. Getting paid upon commencement, getting paid upon signature, getting paid before you start is a big bugaboo of mine.
Right.
And that, that there isn't an endless number of revisions, or know what you're getting paid to do exactly
Yeah,
is
I
kind
like
of the
that.
best advice. And again,
I
some of the stuff doesn't apply to the extent that you're WGA protected, but even still, you need a lawyer. If you are a WGA writer, you need a lawyer to help you call out those producers, those production companies, those studios on the other side, to keep them honest, to keep them in line with the WGA agreement.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a WGA lawyer. I'm sorry, I'm not a WGA writer, and I think it's important as a non-WGA writer to have a lawyer because you don't have those guild protections, but at the same time, you're not getting those guild minimums either because you're not in the guild, so you don't have the guild fighting for you. One thing I've noticed with contracts I've seen lately, or contracts that have been offered to me, is I'll see the upfront payment. Okay, I'm going to get paid X amount on dollars. Great. And then there will be no back end payment. And I'm wondering if that is something you're starting to see more of now.
So a lot of the streamers, and a lot of studios in general are moving away from doing back end, and they'll do back end buyouts. They'll do production bonuses to buy out the additional compensation and to inflate
Yeah,
numbers. So it's something that I see more of. But then there's a tick for tack or something in lieu of that, right? Like a streaming bonus or some sort of,
I
the
gotcha.
upfront fees are higher.
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, or they get an executive producer credit or producer credit or something to that effect.
Yeah. Well, an EP credit would be nice. At least then you can get a little bit of extra cash on the back. All right. So is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have?
Um, Great question. One of the things that I don't think writers consult with an entertainment attorney enough about is when they're actually sitting down and writing. There's just a landmine of legal issues to actually consider when you're sitting down and writing a screenplay, or a work that you want to try to sell and monetize.
Yeah.
Everything from copyright issues, right? Things
Okay.
that going even as granular as specific, and maybe your audience is kind of familiar with this, but Netflix was recently sued over the Eleanor Holmes series
Oh,
starring Henry Cavill and Bobby Millie Brown, or whatever her name
yeah.
is. Sorry.
Hmm.
Because they were sued by the estate of the author of Sherlock Holmes, because they were in the complaint, they alleged that Netflix had used portions of Sherlock Holmes that are not in the public domain,
Oh,
meaning
wow.
those characteristics of Sherlock Holmes being, how do I say, caring, more sympathetic, less robotic, having a
Yeah.
relationship with other people, a relationship with his sister, those quote unquote elements are still protected, whereas the cool, calm, calculated, and detached version of Sherlock Holmes is in the public domain. So
Wow.
these issues of copyright, they kind of seem straightforward, but they can get as small and as granular as something like that. Even to just the viability of a project. Right after COVID, if someone came to me and was like, "Hey, I want to make a period piece," I would have been like, "Hey, that's probably not a good time to make period pieces, not great time to make things with large sets, large set
Yeah.
dress people, in close confines with one another. We us as entertainment lawyers can advise you on how this might translate on screen, and if this is something that would scare off a studio as like being challenging or expensive. There are practical considerations to discuss when you have an entertainment lawyer as well as you're going about writing.
And so for a service like that, do you do that as like a one-time consultation fee, or do you have to have clients that hold you on retainer?
I can do it as a one-time
Oh,
consultation
that's
fee, and I'm
fantastic.
more than happy to. I don't know that I ever have, but for me, I really try to build a relationship with my clients, just because I feel like having me in your back pocket can help maybe elevate you as a writer, give you more confidence as a writer, give you some more you know, clout as you go into the room and pitch yourself. So with all of the clients that I take on, I'm always trying to build some kind of relationship long term.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, lastineentertainmentlaw.com. You can also find me on Instagram at lastinelaw.
Oh, fantastic.